Wizards fans, I'm speaking directly to you.
How are you doing?
Because I feel like these past 5 years there's been nothing but bleakness. And you guys have literally been in NBA purgatory. For the past 5 years, there's been nothing to look forward to. There's been no reason to really believe that you could go far in the playoffs year in and year out because of injuries to star players, shortcomings from the front office, and just a lack of development from your young core because you guys keep having draft picks in the end of the lottery. So these past 5 years, you guys have been in NBA purgatory. I feel like 5 years is crazy. 5 years of being in NBA purgatory is crazy. And I've made quite a few videos on the topic of Wizards mediocrity or NBA purgatory. So to be more exact with this, the start of the Wizards purgatoriness can go to the 2017-2018 season. I think that's the first season where John Wall had like a significant injury. He played 41 games and the Wizards were the 8th seed and got bounced by the Raptors in 2018. Fast forward next season, 32-50. John Wall, I'm pretty sure, was out for the entire season. Oh, he played 32 games, but yeah, the Wizards were the 11th seed. Next season, 25-47. That got them the 10th seed in the East. Wow. Nowadays, that would be a play-in tournament spot. But they were 25-47 in the COVID year. Next year, they were 34-38, 8th in the Eastern Conference. Next year, 35-47, missed the playoffs in its entirety. And this season, they are 28-31 as of right now for 10th in the Eastern Conference. So all of that, I think that was 5 or 6 seasons. Why not blow it up? You're not good enough to be a championship contender, let alone a playoff contender that has a chance of advancing past the first round. Like, you don't have a chance. So with this current core, why wouldn't you blow it up? People cite the reason not all teams are looking for championship or bust. Teams find value in being competitive every night because of ticket sales, fan interest, etc., etc. I understand that, but if you look at Washington's ticket sales over the past 5 years, we'll start in 2017. In 2017, they were 20th. 2018, they were 14th, so top half. 2019, 19th. 2020, 21st. 2021, 13th, so top half, not bad. But that was a COVID year, so we'll put an asterisk on that. 2022, they were 24th. And this season, they are 19th in ticket sales. So yeah, they are a team that has a chance of making the playoffs via the play-in tournament year in and year out, and they have a star in Bradley Beal. So the reasoning for keeping this team with a limited ceiling would be, oh, you have your star, fans are still going to be interested because of that, and they're going to keep coming to your games. But year in and year out, the Wizards are in the bottom third, or at the very least bottom half of ticket sales, so that reasoning can be thrown out the window. And this is why I think the Wizards would have been better in just completely rebuilding, not tanking, but just tearing everything down, bottoming out, so you have a chance at a top 5 pick. And that would entail trading Bradley Beal. Now, he's your franchise player. He's one of the best players in franchise history, up there with Elvin Hayes, and I know there's somebody else I'm missing in Wizards history, but he's a top 3 Wizards player of all time. So I'm not saying just trade him to the OKC Thunder or the fucking Orlando Magic. No, you honor the fact that he was your franchise player for the past 5 years and trade him to a team in which he can compete for a championship, or just a team that he wants to go to. Kind of how Houston traded away James Harden. I think he gave them a list of 3 teams that he wanted to go to, and I assume they were all contenders. And he found himself in Brooklyn to play with KD and Kyrie. Obviously, it didn't end in the way that he would have liked, but I'm pretty sure at the time he was happy going to Brooklyn. So I feel like Washington should have tried to do something like that. Now, if we look at the team itself this season, Bradley Beal has been in and out of the rotation with injury. He's only played 37 games on the season.
Alright, so there was an audio glitch here, but I was pretty much saying how both Kuzma and Porzingis have had career years respectively. Porzingis is arguable is his best season since the Knicks season, in which he was all-star caliber before his injury, but I think it's definitive that this is
a career season for Kyle Kuzma. And that's all great, but these are two guys that are not suited to be number one scoring options on a successful or playoff team. Porzingis is more suited in being like a number two option on a playoff team, and Kuzma probably a number three option on a playoff team. So because of that, your ceiling is going to be limited, and they've had to fill the number one and number two roles because of Bradley Beal's injury. Another thing with these two guys in particular, Kuzma and Porzingis, they're both going to be free agents, or they're likely to be free agents this offseason because they both have player options for the 2023 to 2024 season. Now, Kuzma, I can almost guarantee will reject that player option because he has upped his value considerably above $13 million per year. Porzingis, I guess it's a bit up in the air. It could go either way. But he's definitely reestablished his value, so I wouldn't blame him for wanting to seek out something more secure in like seeking a long-term, like 4 or 5 year deal. So it is very likely that these two can seek the open market in free agency. And if the Wizards were to opt to bring both of them back on salaries per year around 25, Porzingis could probably command around 25 to 28 million per year. Kuzma maybe 20 to 25. But if they were to bring back both of those guys on long-term contracts around those salaries, that would severely limit this team's ceiling, because Bradley Beal's already making an astronomical amount of money. And then you're going to have Porzingis on a max and Kuzma damn near on a max. You have Gafford on a long-term contract, which is a good contract for his value, but it is still a lot of money. That's all your money gone. You're no longer going to have salary cap room if you have this core three of Beal, Porzingis, and Kuzma locked up long-term. So that's going to make it really hard for this team to exceed its current ceiling of being a play-in tournament team. So yeah, year in and year out, they're going to be in that 7 to 11 range. I think if they exceed expectations with their team, if they lock themselves into Beal, Kuzma, and Porzingis, if they exceed expectations, maybe they get a 6 seed, probably would be a 7 seed. But long story short, if they exceed expectations, they're going to be in the top half of the play-in tournament. And teams in the Eastern Conference are not getting worse, they're getting better. The Raptors, they're getting better with Scotty Barnes. OG Anunoby, I assume, will still be on this team going forward. And they still have Siakam and Fred VanVleet as of right now. Don't know about their long-term future, but as long as Scotty progresses, they're going to be getting better. The Hawks view themselves as a contending team. This is probably a down year for them, but they're going to be ahead of the Wizards. The Heat, currently ahead of the Wizards. Butler doesn't show any sign of regressing, and Adebayo and Hero are still getting better. The Knicks, RJ, still getting better team. And then these 5 teams in the Eastern Conference are going to be better than the Wizards long term. And then behind the Wizards, you have the Bulls, who I would argue talent-wise are definitely better than the Wizards. The Pacers are ascending with Halliburton, Mathurin, Jalen Smith, Isaiah Jackson, Chris Duarte. The Magic, Rookie of the Year right now in Paolo, and a lot of young guards, Franz Wagner as well. And then the Pistons with Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, Jaden Ivey. All those teams that I just said are like ascending and are probably going to ascend past the Wizards. The Hornets, not so much. But long story short, if the Wizards just stand pat with this current team, with this current core, and extend everybody, then they're going to get passed up sooner rather than later and end up being maybe in like the 13 to 15 range, which probably would be a good thing because they'd have a higher draft pick. But speaking of those draft picks, over the past 4 or 5 years of being in NBA Purgatory, they haven't really hit on anything. So if we start in 2018, where this mediocrity originated, they drafted Troy Brown Jr. with the 15th pick. And we're going to see that none of these players have really outperformed their draft pick standing. If you look at the 2018 draft, pretty much I'm taking everybody in 2018 before I would want Troy Brown, like in hindsight. Ayton, Bagley, you could argue, but Luka Doncic, Jaren Jackson, Trey, Mo Bamba, Wendell, Colin, Kevin Knox. I'd probably take Troy Brown over Kevin Knox, but Mikal Bridges, SGA, Miles Bridges, Jerome Robinson is arguable, MPJ, and then Troy Brown. So he's probably only outperformed 2 guys above him in the 2018 draft. And then there's guys behind him that you would take before Troy Brown. Dante DiVincenzo, Lonnie Walker, Kevin Huerter, Grayson Allen even, Anthony Simons, Robert Williams. So we're going to see that the Wizards have pretty much not missed, but they haven't really been able to find a diamond in the rough with their draft picks. Going to 2019, I think this is the Hachimura draft. They had Hachimura at the 9th pick. Obviously, you're taking Zion, Ja, RJ, DeAndre, Darius. You're taking all of those guys before Rui. You're going to take Rui above Culver. Kobe White is arguable. You'll take Rui above Jackson. But if you look behind him, you probably take Cam Johnson over Rui. I guess that one's arguable. PJ Washington, same thing. But Tyler Hero, you're taking above Rui. That's probably about it. I guess this might be the only draft pick where you could say their pick has outperformed their standing, maybe. But I wouldn't say that they found a diamond in the rough here. And that's kind of what you need to do when you're going to be picking at the tail end of the lottery every year. In 2020, this was the Denny Avdia draft, right? Or am I incorrect? No. Denny Avdia with another 9th pick. Above him was Ants. James Wiseman is arguable. LaMelo, Patrick Williams, Okoro maybe. Goodness. Okoro is maybe arguable. I'd probably take Onyeka before Denny. I'd take Denny before Killian. I'd take Denny before Obi maybe. But behind him, you got Devin Vassell, Tyrese Halliburton, Cole Anthony, Isaiah Stewart, Sadiq Bey, Tyrese Maxey. All those guys you're taking above Denny Avdia. Fast forward another year, 2021. This was Corey Kispert. Right? Yeah, Corey Kispert at 15. Jalen, Evan Mobley, Scotty Barnes, you're all taken before Kispert. Suggs even, yeah. Giddey, Kuminga, Franz Wagner, Davion Mitchell, I guess could be arguable, but he's not really getting the playing time this season. I might take Kispert before Zaire Williams. I'd take Kispert before Book Knight. Kispert definitely before Joshua Primo. But I'd take Duarte before Kispert. Moody, you can argue. But behind Kispert, it's going to be Şengün, Trey Murphy, Isaiah Jackson, Bones Highland, Quentin Grimes, Cam Thomas. Anybody else? Herbert Jones. Miles McBride, who's played some good minutes for the Knicks. Yeah, there's a lot of guys down below the pick of Kispert that I would pick before him in a hypothetical redraft. And then 2022, that's Johnny Davis, who we have not seen much of this season because of limited playing time. They picked him at number 10. Everybody picked above him. I would still pick above him. And then behind him, Jalen Duren, AJ Griffin, Tari Eason, Walker Kessler, even Andrew Nembhard I'd pick before him. Anybody else? Nah, but like 5 or 6 people that were picked after him that in hindsight I would pick before him just based off the season alone. But it's just going to show that the Wizards have not found a diamond in the rough in the tail end of the lottery. And that's what they've had to do in order to be successful and raise their ceiling and not just being a mediocre play-in tournament team. So there's 3 possible roads or routes or paths, whatever synonym you want to use, that the Washington Wizards can take in order to move forward with their team. The first one is one that they've stuck with for the past 5 years. They've remained pretty damn complacent. Or actually, no. I guess trading for Russell Westbrook in 2020 kind of goes against them being complacent, but it resulted in them still being in NBA purgatory. But whatever. Regardless, they can still be complacent, and they can do what I said or talked about them doing in re-signing Kristaps Porzingis, re-signing Kuzma on long-term deals around for Kuzma, I'd say around 20 to 25 million. For Porzingis, from 25 to 30 million. They could do that on 3 or 4 year deals, maybe get a mid-level exception for a veteran that they think fits their team, and they can lock goodness. And they can lock themselves into that core, hope for some monumental improvement from Denny Avdia, Corey Kispert, and Johnny Davis. From one of those guys, hope for some monumental improvement. And, just hope and pray. Also hope for health from Bradley Beal next season. And also hope for, win now, ready now impact from whatever pick that they're going to have this upcoming draft. And the results I see from this, 1, they could overperform. And like I said, them overperforming would mean them getting at most, or at the highest, the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. They can meet expectations. Actually, hang on, let me assign some likelihoods to that. Them overperforming next season and getting the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference, I give a 15% chance of that happening if they take this complacent route. The next possible result, they could meet expectations and be in the hunt for a play-in tournament spot in that 7 to 10, 7 to 11 range. That result, I give 60% likelihood. And then the final result, they can completely bottom out. The teams currently behind them in the Eastern Conference could get better as, they have young prospects with star and superstar potential. Teams behind them like Orlando and Detroit, those teams can get better. And the Wizards can find themselves in the bottom, dwelling in the bottom in the Eastern Conference. I assign a 25% likelihood of that happening. Another thing they could do is try to retool, which I guess is what they tried to do with Russell Westbrook 2 years ago. They could re-sign Kuzma from somewhere to 18 to 24 million, whatever. And they could use Kristaps Porzingis's player option if he opts into it, or they could use him in a sign and trade to add a star player that better fits their team. Because I think if they were to either let Porzingis walk or trade him away, I'm pretty sure, in my opinion, actually, Daniel Gafford is a starting caliber center. I think he is a starting caliber rim running center. He could be a low end version of Jared Allen, Jared Allen last season was an all-star. Gafford in starting minutes can give you 12 and 10 and 1.5 to 2 blocks per game. I believe that. So if they trade Porzingis, allowing Gafford to get the starting center minutes, they could trade Porzingis for an impactful star player, either at the point guard position or another forward. And obviously he'd have to be traded to a team that would want to trade away their star. So maybe the Raptors with Siakam, or even OG Anunoby, because we know the Raptors need a center. Or maybe even Fred VanVleet if they want to offload Fred. If the Blazers want to finally rebuild and embrace the young core of Shaedon Sharpe and Anthony Simons and trade away Damian Lillard, then they could do so. And a hypothetical Dame for Kristaps and 3 or 4 first-round picks, throw some protections on them. The Wizards pretty much have all of their first round picks going forward, I'm pretty sure. Maybe after this season they might be involved in a swap with the Rockets, but I'm pretty sure they have a grand majority of their first round picks, so they could afford to do a type of trade like that if Damian Lillard were to be available. Some other names that come to mind: DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine if the Bulls are looking to rebuild, Jimmy Butler if the Heat are finally tired of their core kind of, not being contenders year in and year out. Keldon Johnson on the Spurs comes to mind if they're looking to offload him. But I think there are going to be some guys, some star caliber players, some impactful star players for the Wizards to kind of go after maybe in this off season. Possible results for them retooling and adding a star in place of KP and moving Gafford to the 5. They could overperform and be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. If they were able to add a star like Damian Lillard to this team, or Pascal Siakam or DeMar DeRozan, I give them a 40% chance of ending up in the top 4 in the Eastern Conference. Or actually, no, maybe not top 4. I'd say 4 to 6 range, like a certified competitive playoff team. that would be them meeting expectations, and I'd assign a 40% chance of that happening if they were to add a star like that. They could also underperform and either be in the play-in, probably be in like the play-in tournament picture. If they were able to add a star like Dame and they'd be in the play-in picture, that would be them underperforming, and I'd assign a 40% likelihood of that. And then they could really overperform and be in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. I'd assign a 20% chance of that happening. The last route for them to take, they could opt for a complete rebuild. They could either let Kuzma and Porzingis walk in free agency, or they could work out some type of sign and trades for teams that might want them but not have the cap space to add them, and just, you know, straight up signing them. So they could do a sign and trade for those players, and they could finally trade Bradley Beal, which I don't know how hard that's going to be given that he's making like $50 million per year over the next 3 years, but if it's out there, it's out there, and they could do that, and they could pretty much just bottom out. And in a return for Bradley Beal, you'd probably get 3 first-round picks and maybe a couple of young pieces, or you could get 1 like primary, like really good young piece and 2 or 3 first-round picks. Regardless, that's what the Wizards should go after, and if they were to do that, then there'd be a 100% chance that this team would bottom out and be a bottom dweller in the Eastern Conference, which is fine because that would allow them that would allow them to get a top 5 pick in the 2024 NBA draft, which really would help their rebuild. Long story short, it just feels like this team, like year in and year out, is just assigned to complete irrelevance because they don't have an impact really in the top 5 in the draft year in and year out, and they don't really have an impact in the playoffs because they're either a first round exit from being a 7 or 8 seed, or they're not making the playoffs. So they're just locked into like mediocrity and irrelevance. They've been that way for the past 5 seasons, and this is why people just forget about the Wizards, honestly. And as a fan, I'd be fucking pissed if my team were just in this 7 to 11 range year in and year out. I'd be pissed at the front office for not doing anything to try and attempt to unlock the ceiling of this team. I think if I were a fan of the Wizards, I would want Bradley Beal to request a trade to a contender because I'd personally feel bad for him as well. But those are just my opinions. If you're a Wizards fan, leave a comment down below on how you guys feel and what you want from the front office for this team going forward. I also did want to say thank you for the support on the Brooklyn Nets like trade look forward comparison to the other super team video that I did. Showed a lot of support, a lot of engagement. So yeah, I have to thank you guys for that. And it's really good to see it get that much support because they put a lot of effort, time, and scripting into that video. So to see it do well, that was dope. Yeah, so thank you again. If you like the video, leave a like, and if you want to see more, subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you later.
I'm leaning on the rocks, baby, but I got some rock for you. Hey, I'm leaning on the rocks, baby, but I got some rock for you.